or high. Paris, the capital and the largest city in France, is in the north of the state, in the central part of the Parisian basin, on the Seine River. Population of 2.2 million people. 2016. Center of agglomeration Greater Paris. 6.6 million. Which is kernel of the historical region Île-de-France. More than 12 million. Forms the commune and department separated into 20 districts. Treats the global cities and world financial centers. Here the headquarters of UNESCO and other international organizations are located. The historic center formed by the island of Sight and both coasts of Seine developed throughout centuries. In the second half of the 19th century has undergone radical reconstruction. In the suburbs the Palace and Parc Versailles ensemble is located. It is founded in the 3rd century BB by the Celtic tribe Parisiov. Since the 3-4 centuries it is known as the Gallo-Roman city of Parisi. Since the end of the 10th century with breaks is the capital of France. There are several versions of origin of a toponym Paris, the most popular of which have received names Gallic and Roman. According to the Gallic version, the name Paris has come from Latin Civitas Parisium, city Parisiov. In the 3rd century BB the Celtic tribe Parisiov has founded on the place of the modern island of Sight the settlement which has received the name Lutetia, from Latin lutum, dirt, silt, is connected also with the Celtic Lactea, fenny places. For the first time it is mentioned in Julius Caesar's composition. Commentari di Bello Gallico, dated approximately 53rd year BB. After transformation of Gallia into the Roman province. The 16th year BB. Lutetia became considerable shopping center, and from 3rd century it began to be called Parisia. The Roman version, which not without the basis is considered too far-fetched, refers origin of the name of the city to a name of the hero of the myth about the Trojan War, Paris, the son of the Trojan Tsar Priam who has kidnapped beautiful Helena at the Spartans' Armenonous. According to Virgil, the escaped Trojans led by Aeneas have come to the Apennine Peninsula where have founded Rome. A portion of how Paris's relatives have appeared in the territory of France and have founded the city of his name which has become subsequently Paris remains open. Throughout centuries Paris repeatedly got various nicknames. Finally, word Paris is explained by the fact that it has come to Russian through Polish. Paris has grown on the place of the settlement of Lutetia founded by the Celtic tribe Parisiov in the 3rd century BB. The settlement was located on the safe island of Sight surrounded with Seine River waters. At the beginning of the 2nd century BB the settlement has been enclosed with a fortification. Trade was the basis of the economy. Seine connected the Mediterranean Sea with the British Isles. In the 52nd year BB Parisia have joined a revolt of Gauls against domination of Rome under leadership of the Arvernsky leader Vercinge. Tauriga. The Battle of Lutetia, in which Romans have won a victory, has the same year taken place. By this time Julius Caesar's compositions, Commentari di Bello Gallico, in which Lutetia, the city Parisiov, located on one of the islands of Seine, has been for the first time mentioned belong. After the Roman commander Titlabian has besieged it, inhabitants have destroyed bridges and have burned the city. Romans Romans have built it anew, having constructed from a stone roads, country houses, a 16-kilometer aqueduct, 3 terms, an amphitheater and a forum with a basilica. The Roman administration was placed on the island of Site where the port continued to function. In the 3rd century the city has undergone attacks from the German tribe of Alaman that has led to resettlement of inhabitants from the left coast of Seine on more protected island of Site. Then Lutetia began to be called the city Parisia, and then Parisi. In the 4th century the first Christian church has appeared. For the 5th century activity of the Saint Genevieve, who has become the patroness of Paris, has had. In 470 Salic Franks led by Childeric I besieged more than 10 years the city. At the end of the 5th century Ludwig has for a while turned Paris into the capital of the Franksky state. Middle Ages. In 508 the city became the capital of the kingdom of Merovingian. In the 6th century churches and monasteries were constructed everywhere. At this time the population made 15,000–20,000 inhabitants. On Zeta fortress towered, residences of the king and the church power were located. Trade was a basis of existence of the city, and the possibility of an outlet to the sea. Through Seine. Promoted appearance of merchants from the east, mainly Syrian and Jewish. In the 7th century Paris Charles the Great, to Aachen, has lost capital function after the king of Franks Clotaire II has moved to Clichy, and later. After ascent on a throne of the first king of France of a dynasty Capetingov of Gugo Capet at the end of the 10th century became the state capital again. At the end of the 9th century the city has undergone attacks from Normans. In 856–857 years they have ruined a left bank of Paris. From 885 to 887 years the city was besieged by not less than 40,000 Normans on 700 vessels. At the beginning of the 12th century the population has been concentrated generally on the island fortress of Site, which remained the royal residence to the middle of the 15th century. Here the episcopal palace in Notre Dame de Paris was placed. At churches and monasteries hospitals for the poor worked. In the 12th–13th centuries there was an active settling of a right bank near port. At the King Philip II Augustus the new fortification on both coasts of Seine has been built, on street stone blocks is newly laid. In the 13th century at the Parisian University formed a century earlier 4 faculties worked. Canon law and theology, medicine, art, philology. During Centenary War since December 1420 for 16 years Paris has been occupied by troops of the English King Henry V, and is later than the Duke of Bedford, the regent of France since 1422. From the middle of 15th to the middle 16th centuries the capital of France was located in Tours. Modern times. At the beginning of the 16th century at the King Francis I Paris finally became the capital of France. In the 16th, 17th centuries for streamlining of taxation and other purposes the city has been separated into 16 areas. At this time the position of the head of local government Prévôt has turned into dependent on the king. By the end of the 16th century about 300,000 people lived in the city. In the second half of the 16th century, in the age of Reformation Paris was shaken by the religious wars which have captured France. Dissent was pursued, heretics went to a fire. About 20,000 citizens professed the ideas of Protestantism. On the night of August 24, 1572, there was a massacre of St. Bartholomew, which has claimed the lives over 5,000 people. During this period the city has undergone a 5-year siege troops of the King of Navarre, during which about 30,000 people have died. At the beginning of the 17th century at Henry IV, many known buildings, in particular Novi Bridge and Korolovskaya Square, have been built. In 1622 Paris became the archbishopric. In 1671 Louis XIV has transferred the royal residence from Paris to Versailles. In 1702 the city has been separated into 20 areas. At the end of the 18th century around the city have put up the wall of general farmers up to 5 meters high, having established a fair for dealers. This wall served as administrative border till 1860. During the revolution in 1789 the first Parisian mayor Bailly has been elected. During Napoleon's government the city authorities have been concentrated in hands of 2 prefects. During the period from 1804 to 1814 there was a population explosion at which the population has increased about less than 580,000 to 700,000 inhabitants. The main constructions of this period have been complete after Napoleon's overthrow. On March 31, 1814 Allied troops headed by the Prussian king and the Russian emperor have entered the city. From 1841 to 1845 around Paris the last fortification of Tyre, consisting of 17 forts and 94 bastions, has been constructed. From 1820 years oil lamps on the central streets were succeeded by gas lamps. In the second half of the 19th century there took place 5 of 21 world fairs here. In 1871, within 2 months, the power in the city was in hands of the Commune of Paris. In the years of World War II Paris has been occupied by the German troops. On the Champs-Élysées there took place the German military marches. In Lutetia Hotel the Abwehr, Gestapo, on Lariston Street was placed. The city lived on the Berlin Timon with the German signs. Occupation has lasted until the end of August 1944, when capitulation of the German General von Holtz was accepted by the General Leclerc. On August 25 Charles de Gaulle from a balcony of a city town hall delivers the well-known speech. Paris is profaned, Paris is broken, Paris is exhausted, but Paris is free. There were Massachusetts riots of May 1968 which have led, eventually, not so much to change of the government, how many to radical repetition of society, change of mentality of the French. On November 13, 2015 in Paris there was a series of terrorist attacks. At Stade de France Stadium and in Contour Voltaire Café explosions have taken place, visitors of several restaurants have been shot, in Bataclan Theatre the audience and actors have been taken hostage. Responsibility for the event was undertaken by the Islamic State terrorist group, banned in the Russian Federation and some other countries. On January 30, 2019 the Information Travel and Leisure Portal has published the rating of the most romantic cities of the world. During the research the number of the people seeking to make proposal or to marry in the territory of a certain city was analyzed. Also the sexual activity of inhabitants and existence of favorable conditions for light acquaintances was analyzed. By results of a research, Paris has taken the 4th place in this rating. Paris is located on banks of the River of Seine, in the center of the Parisian Basin, in 145 km from English Channel. The square of the city covers 0.9% of the territory of the region Île-de-France and 0.02% of the territory of France. The area is 105.40 km. The 113th place among communes of France. Perimeter -54.74 km. City extent from the east on the west reaches 18 km, from the north on the south -9.5 km. It is possible to pass Paris on foot less than in 2 hours. Average height above sea level -30 meters. The highest points are located on hills Montmartre and Belleville, from 128.15 to 128.65 m above sea level. The lowest point is at the corner of streets Leblanc and Saint Charles. The 15th district. -30.5 m above sea level. Modern borders are established in 1860. The city line passes, generally on Ring Peripheric Highway. Beyond its limits the Vincennes and Boulogne forests entering city boundaries are located to the east and to the west. The Parisian meridian long time was considered on the French cards as a zero meridian. The line of a meridian is imprinted by 135 medallions focused from the north on the south with a name of the astronomer Arago, laid on pavements, sidewalks and buildings. On this line the Parisian Observatory is located. The 0 km from which all road distances in France are counted is on the square in front of Notre Dame de Paris. The antipode of Paris is located in waters of the Pacific Ocean, in the southeast from New Zealand, near the antipodes. Geographical coordinates of the city. 48 AE latitudes and 2 AE longitudes. Hydrography. The Seine River was the major factor for creation and development of the city, the foundation for which have laid islands numerous at the time on it. From the islands lying within the city, the island of Sight is of the greatest interest. Occupied in antique times, it is a cradle of Paris. Exactly, there are many historical monuments, such as Notre Dame de Paris, Sainte-Chapelle, Conciergerie. Division of the city into the right coast. Trade, business part of the city. And the left coast. Cultural, educational part of the city. Is traditional. Length of Seine within Paris is 12.78 km, depth varies it from 3.8 m. Near National Bridge. Up to 5.7 m. At Mirabeau Bridge. Course width from 30 m. Montebello Embankment. To 200 m. At Grenelle Bridge. The lowest water level in the history of 26.39 m, a mark with historical water levels, is on a wall of the embankment of the island of Saint-Ludovic. Speed of a current of water of 2 km/h, a rate of flow of 273 m/s, average temperature is plus 14.1 C. Except the river, within the city there are Saint Martin, Saint Denis and Urque channels with a total length of 7.6 km. In the past Paris repeatedly suffered from floods. The last large-scale flood has happened in 1910. The modern city is protected from floods by the system of reservoirs upseam and also increase in level of embankments. Climate. Meteorological observations are conducted continuously since 1873 with a meteorological station in the Mansouri Park. Paris is located in a zone of a temperate continental climate, on a joint of two climatic phenomena opposed each other. The proximity to the sea causes availability of warm and damp air masses and invasion of a cold continental air, most often from the north and the northeast. Average annual temperature is 12.0 C, the coldest month. January, plus 4.7 C. The hottest. July and August, plus 20 C. Average annual rainfall, 600. The most rainy month, May, 64.9. The smallest precipitation drops out in February, 43.7. On long-term observations, in a year there are 111 rainy days, 18 days go downpours with thunderstorms, 11 days in a year drop out rainfall in the form of snow. The microclimate of Paris caused by density and pollution differs in the air temperature. On average 2 C higher than average temperature on the region, a difference can reach 10 C. Lowered by humidity, the smaller grace in the afternoon and lighter nights. The direction of the dominating wind according to the windrows constructed according to observations of the Météo France station. Southwest. The hottest for the history of meteorological observations in the afternoon in Paris was on July 25, 2019, when thermometers have risen up to plus 42.6 C. The lowest temperature has been registered on December 10, 1879. 23.9 C. The sharpest change of temperature within 24 hours has happened on December 31, 1978. Temperature has fallen from plus 12 C to 10 C. The strongest wind, 169 km/h, it is noted in December 1999. Fall of temperature below 0 C is considered cold, and it is below 10 C, extreme. During this period, social services of the city for the help to the homeless will be mobilized. This state of environment is influenced by factors of activity of the multi-million population. Statistically, the capital of France and the adjacent region are included into the first 100 the most densely populated agglomerations on the planet. Within the city, the number of objects of the industry is small owing to the process of deindustrialization which has begun in the middle of the 20th century. Thanks to what pollution of soils is not a burning issue. Nevertheless, noise pollution, transport exhausts, the main environmental problems of the city. It is necessary to add to it deficiency of park zones in the French capital and lag on this indicator from other large European cities. 14.5 m on the person. Since 2002, everywhere there is a practice of sorting of garbage. Much attention is paid to purity of air, so, over Paris the balloon seen in a radius of 40 km which color changes depending on air quality is started every day. Besides, observation of a condition of air in the city since 1979 is under authority of the Air Purif organization. Pollution levels on a scale from 1 to 10 are advertised on many electronic boards of the city. According to official data, air quality has considerably improved for the last decade in many parameters. 2 decades ago, the ecological condition of Seine left much to be desired to what the Massachusetts pestilence of fish in 1990 and 1992 can testify. In 1988, Jacques Chirac, being the mayor of Paris, has said that in 5 years it will be possible to swim in Seine. Really, in recent years water quality in the river has improved so that today about 28 species of fish within the city live in its waters. Much attention is paid to green plantings, increase in their variety thanks to what Paris is considered one of the most green capitals of Europe. In the city there are about card trees, to the oldest of which Robinia is pseudoacacia. In Viviani Square in the 5th district put at Henry IV, more than 400 years. Gardening happens even on roofs, so, according to the plan of biodiversity, is going to create 7 hectares of green plantings on the Parisian roofs. In the city attempts of fight against noise pollution, which basic reason the motor transport are made. Statistically for 2006, 54% of the interviewed Parisians are disturbed by noise, and housing of people faces the street windows where noise level exceeds 70 dBs. The coat of arms of Paris is for the first time mentioned in the 12th century. It is approved in 1358 as the King Charles V. In Redon is now Polio aboard the silver ship with a sail floating on silver waves in upper blue, cold lilies is represented. The boat topped with a gold crown with 5 towers is framed with green branches of olive and an oak at which base is the silver tape with the motto in Latin approved in the 19th century is twisted. Swings it, but it does not sink. Under a tape 3 awards. Military Cross, Award of the Honorable Legion and Award of Release. The ship widespread on the coats of arms of the seaside cities of France symbolizes the emergence of Paris as river port. Gold lilies belong to a dynasty emblem Capetingave at which the city became the capital of France. The flag of Paris represents the square panel consisting of 2 vertical strips of blue and red colors which use goes back to the 14th century. The logo of the Paris City Council represents a blue-red horizontal strip with the ship at the right edge, on a blue background a white inscription. Paris City Council. Population. As of 2015 in Paris constantly lived 2,666,666 people. 3.6% of the population of France and 19.3% of inhabitants of the region Île-de-France are the share of it. Throughout the 19th century, up to the end of World War I the population increased, having reached a historic high in 1921, 2.9 million people. This number remained until the end of World War II, then from 1950th years it began to be reduced sharply, having reached 2.2 million people in 1999. In the odd years the population increased, mainly due to growth of birth rate. The high share of youth due to moving of pensioners from the capital to the province and on the south of the country is noted. The population of agglomeration of Paris in 2011 according to the Union was 10.620 million people. According to Eurostat for 2003-2006 the population of the urbanized zone. Paris was 11,532,409 people. In antique times and the Middle Ages, because of numerous wars, epidemics and Massachusetts hunger, the number of inhabitants often sharply fell. 4.85 million people, and in 2006, already 11.6 million lived in suburbs due to their expansion in 1921. A large number of unmarried. 51.5% of all population of the city lives in the city. The average Parisian family consists from 1.88 persons. The total coefficient of birth rate makes 1.64. The bulk of the Parisian families has only one child. For 2004, the coefficient of birth rate has made 14.8, mortality rate -6.6. Thus, natural increase of the population was +8.1, and the general +2.1. In 2008, about card foreigners lived in Paris, that makes 14.9% of the population of Paris. 30% from them natives of the EU, another 20% are the share of immigrants from Algeria, Morocco and Tunisia. Religion. Saint Genevieve is considered the Christian patroness of Paris. Historically, most of the population of Paris was made by Christians. The Muslim population is concentrated in 11, 18, 19 and 20 districts. The Parisian mosque, located in the 5th district, is opened for parishioners in 1926. In total in the city there are 94 Catholic communities, besides 15 Orthodox churches, 21 synagogues, card Jews, 2 mosques. For 5,000 Muslims, the most part of Sunnites live in Paris. The Armenian Apostolic Church, located on Gizon Street, work. In the administrative relation, Paris is a part of the region Île-de-France. Forms department and the commune at the same time, thus, control of the city is exercised at 2 levels. The mayor of Paris and its deputies are elected by Council of Paris for a period of 6 years. The power of the capital mayor does not exceed the volume of authority of any other mayor of the French city. The mayor of Paris since March 2014 is Anne Hidalgo, the member of the Socialist Party of France. Council of Paris as body of the representative power of the commune consists of 163 municipal advisors elected by the population on 20 administrative districts for a period of 6 years. The authorities of department are provided by the Prefect of Department of the City of Paris, the Prefect of Police of the City of Paris and the Council of Paris, given authority of General Council of Department. The twinning relations are established only with one city of Rome, in 1956 under the motto, "Only Paris is worthy Rome." Only Rome is worthy Paris. Partner bonds are available more than with 50 cities of the world. Sometimes actually the city of Paris is called free. Paris intramuros, Paris in walls, and Paris together with the next suburbs. The Parisian agglomeration, Greater Paris, of 1700 km, and population more than 10 million people. The city is divided into 20 municipal districts numbered from the center to the periphery for a spiral clockwise, to which zip codes from 75001 to 75020 are appropriated. Each district in turn is separated into 4 quarters, in each of which there is the police station. Economy. Paris, the most important economic center of France, is made by 10% of NPN of the country here. Nearly a quarter of all manufacturing enterprises of the country have opened the offices and the headquarters in the mother country. In the city, card enterprises from 1.64 million jobs are created, that in terms of all able-bodied Parisians makes 1.5 workplaces on the person. Nevertheless, the number of jobless Parisians makes 8.7%, that however, below than countrywide. 9.3%. As of the end of 2010. The bulk, 85%, of jobs belongs to services industry. In spite of the fact that the industry is actively removed for city boundaries, it continues to provide about 100,000 jobs. About the same jobs it is the share of the small enterprises occupied in the field of service, 35%. Production, 30%. Construction, 20%. And a power supply, 15%. Travel business in which card people are engaged is developed. Its share is equal to 13% of the Parisian economy. In 2011, the French capital was visited by 28.2 million tourists, that in 12 times more population of the city. A half of tourists is represented by the French. 12 million people a year come to the French capital in a business trip. P2007 The Chinese tourists have spent 79 million euros in the Parisian shops of Dachshunds Big Heads, Japanese -87 million euros, Russians -72 million euros, Americans -71 million euros. In Paris, the bulk of the French banks, insurance companies and other financial enterprises was located. The main French telecommunication companies are also located mainly in Paris. Vivendi Universal, Groupe Lagardère, Groupe Tietê. According to Fortune Global 500, in 2012 the headquarters of 19 largest companies of the world. More than in any other city of Europe. Including AXA Insurance Group, BNP Paribas and Société Générale banking groups was located here. Today the city, together with opened in 1950, the 60th years in the suburbs de la Défense Business Center, is one of the most important shopping centers of Europe. Thanks to concentration of the French and international firms in the city, Paris provides about a third of GDP of the country. In the rating of attractiveness to investors according to Opinionway, it possesses a palm among the cities of continental Europe and the fourth place in the world list. Paris takes the third place in the world, after New York and London, among the cities forming global information space. Here the central offices of the French broadcasting company France Télévisions, the national newspapers Le Figaro, Le Monde and Libération, and also the international news agency, Agence France Presse, the Lagardère Media Group and satellite operator Eutelsat are located. There is a daily regional newspaper Le Parisien. 20 Minutes, Direct Matin and Metro News belong to free daily newspapers. Cultural life of the city is lit by weekly publications Periscope and 50 official spectacles. The local television is provided by regional programs of national TV channel France 3 and also regional network Telef. Gastronomy. Restaurants in modern understanding of a word have arisen in Paris shortly before the French Revolution. The word restaurant comes from the French verb restaurer, to normalize, give force. The same root that had the Russian word restoration. This word long time was applied to dense dishes, meat broths, and from the second half of the 18th century to institutions of public catering. In 1786 there was a resolution Parisian Prévost, allowing two cooks and restaurateurs to accept visitors to 23. Winter. Until 24 o'clock. Summer. For prosperous citizens has become a habit to appoint business, as well as personal meetings not of the house, and at restaurant. Restaurant business developed in high gear. Soon the number of restaurants in Paris was already difficult to be counted. Some Parisian cafes exist since the Age of Enlightenment, when they performed more social function than served as the place for meal. It is possible to carry Procope Café, the first literary café, to them. Now it is considered the oldest restaurant of Paris, and the Café de la Régence, which has become the place of meetings of the best chess players of those times, has existed till 1950th years. For admirers of a variety show in Paris, a large number of cabarets opened. The most known of them: Moulin Rouge, Lido, Crazy Horse, the Paradise of Latinas in Latin Quarter, and Folie Burger. The advertising of Cabaret, Black Cat, drawn with Théophile Stenlin in 1896, is considered one of symbols. The cabaret was in the Bohemian district of Paris, Montmartre. Transport. Paris, the large transport hub of the country. Historically, main roads of the country reduces dispersed from the capital, and about today these reduces are accurately visible on the highway map of France. To Paris reduces roads from all possible directions meet. A from Lille, A from Reims, A from Dijon, A from Lyon, A from Nevers, A from Orleans, A from Rouen, and A from Amiens. Directly around the city, the ring highway, having from 2 to 4 lanes in each party, is built. 2 more belt roads, A and A, allow transit transport to travel over Paris, without stopping by in the city. The river port of Paris, located generally behind city boundaries, is the largest in France and the second largest in Europe. Its annual passenger traffic makes 7 million people, goods turnover minus 20 million tons. For 2008. Paris, the homeland of public transport. Its first route has appeared at the initiative of Blaise Pascal on March 18, 1662. Public transport of the French capital is provided by underground types. And land. The bus and the tram. And also water Vaguio, a network of bicycle rental Velib, and, of course, the taxi. Them in the city 16623 cars. Main operator of the Parisian public transport. RAT. Under whose authority all lines of the subway and bus routes, 3 lines of the tram and 2 lines of RER. Tram T line and the majority of the RER lines are served by the French railroads. SAICs. Since 2007, the network of automatic rental centers of Velib bicycles, consisting of 1450 rental centers located through each 300 meters, works. According to the representative of the Paris City Council, it is the fastest way of movement within the city, to which concede even the subway and cars. Since December 2011, the extensive network of short-term rolling of the Autolib electric vehicles functions. Since 2008, the network of catamarans Vaguio between the Austerlitsky station and the Maison Alpha works. On all means of transport within the city, the ticket of Ticket T is accepted. 1-day subscriptions of Mobilis and Ticket June weekend for persons are younger than 26 years, and also 1 are the multi-day subscription of Paris Visit or the ticket of Navigo. The Parisian subway is open in July 1900. Consists of 14 lines with a total length of 212. 5 came with 300 stations and the funicular of Montmartre that does its network to the most dense in the world. In the city there is no place remote from the nearest metro station more than on 500 meters. Since 1998 in a System 14th line, the first automatic transfer line in the city functions. Represents high-speed network which idea of creation has arisen in the 1968 years in connection with rapid growth of suburbs of Paris, not covered the subway. Today the RER network, the Regional Express Subway, represents 5 lines of suburban electric trains. A, B, C, D, E, passing through the center of Paris. From the junction stations where convenient change on the subway line is carried out. The Parisian tram has been revived in 1992 in connection with the increased density of traffic flow. Earlier its existence in 1937 has been stopped. Directly from all network of the tram of the Region Île-de-France and city lines there passes only one line of the tram. T. Popular among Parisians, while the others work in suburbs. In 2012 the line has been prolonged. The Parisian bus exists since 1906. Today the network contains 60 routes and also night Noctilien buses. Sometime in Paris there were trolleybuses. Their blossoming has fallen on years of fascist occupation, but in 1966 the trolleybus network has been liquidated. Paris is the center of a railway network of France. 7 central stations of the city. Northern East, Lyons, Austerlitz, Saint-Lazare, Bercy and Montparnasse. Serve various directions of train service, including to London and Moscow. Time in way: 2 hours 20 minutes and 39 hours respectively. And also high-speed lines of the trains Eurostar, TF, Thalys. The northern station with a passenger traffic about 180 million people a year is the most loaded in Europe. For cargo transportation stations of Le Bourget, located in the commune of the same name, and Vers are used. The capital of France has 4 international airports located behind its line. The airport Charles de Gaulle, who is in 25, came from the city with a passenger traffic of 61.6 million people. 2012 is the second in load in Europe. The second largest airport of Paris, the Orly, is located in 13, came from it. At these airports planes of Air France airline are based. Also the Beauvais-Lille airport works. The Le Bourget Airport services business aircraft and is known thanks to the International Air Show which is taking place in it. On the volume of passenger air transportation in 2010, agglomeration of Paris took the 5th place in the world and the 2nd in Europe. All airports are connected with Paris by buses, the airport Charles de Gaulle also, RER electric trains and the trains TEV, the Orly, RER electric trains, BO, trains of the Railroad 6. Science and education. The most prestigious educational institutions of France are in its capital, which is in the lead in the rating of the student cities of the world. The most known Parisian university, Sorbonne, has been founded in 1257 by Robert de Sorbonne with the purpose to train several dozens of poor students in divinity. Quickly enough, Sorbonne. The university has received the name only in the 14th century. Became the largest and prestigious educational institution of Paris and France. Around it the well-known Latin Quarter, whose name was formed then, has extended also to students' quarters of other cities. In 1968 the Parisian University has been reformed and separated into 13 independent higher education institutions, 5 of which are located in suburbs of Paris now. In Paris the Institute of France, consisting of 5 academies main, is also located, and the most prestigious of which, the French Academy, which has become a part of higher education institution in 1803, is considered. It has come from the Parisian literary circle founded in 1629 by Valentin Connor. The Academy has received the status of the public scientific institution in 1635. Other prestigious educational institutions are Collège de France, Polytechnical School, École Normale Supérieure, Catholic Institute, Mining Institute and National Institute of Management. The biggest library of Paris, the National Library of France, founded in 1368 by the King Charles V from funds of a private library in Louvre. At the time of the basis, the library was storage for only 911 manuscripts, as in those days it was accepted to destroy all its documents after the death of the monarch. This custom was broken by Louis XI, with whom expansion of fund has begun. In 1988 the President François Mitterrand declared construction of the new building of National Library on the project of the architect Dominique Perrault. Now the library contains more than 10 million printing editions. Sport. The sports club, most popular in Paris, Football Paris Saint-Germain. Founded in 1970, plays the home games at the Parc des Princes Stadium, built at the end of the 19th century. The main sports arena of Paris, the Stade de France Stadium, located in the suburb of Saint-Denis. The arena has been built to the FIFA World Cup of 1998 and accommodates viewers. The stadium is used for carrying out not only football matches, but also track and field athletics, rugby and other sports competitions. In 2016, France has hosted the European Football Championship. The city became one of venues of a tournament. The final has taken place at Stade de France Stadium. Annually there passes the finish of the most prestigious cycle race of Tour de France in the world. Since 1975 cyclists carry out the final stage of a race on the Champs-Élysées. One more sport popular in Paris: tennis. The Roland Garros Stadium annually at the end of May, the beginning of June, receives one of 4 Grand Slam tournaments, the Open Championship of France. In November the prestigious men's tennis tournament of BNP Paribas Masters is held. In Paris Summer Olympic Games 1900 and 1924 of year were held. In the summer of 2024, in the city will hold the Olympic Games 2024. Annually track and field athletics run are organized. Parisian Marathon and Parisian Semi-Marathon. Culture. The Parisian Opera has made a significant contribution to development of opera art. Today in Paris 2 opera theaters. Opera by Garnier, popular also as Grand Opera and Opera of the Bastille. The Opera by Garnier, which has opened in 1875 and called by name the Architect of M, is the most Bolshoi opera theater in the world. The new Bastille Opera exists since 1989. From the moment of opening of the new opera, losing in hardware, the Garnier Palace is used, mainly, for ballet representations and classical opera performances. The well-known theatre, Comédie Française, has arisen in 1680 from merge of the former theatre of Molière of Illustre Theatre to several theatrical companies. Among the actors playing on stage of Comédie Française there were such famous people as Sarah Bernhardt and Jean-Louis Barrault. Today the theatre makes, generally, the classical repertoire. Cinema as spectacular art was born in Paris on December 28, 1895 in Grand Café in the Boulevard Capucinac. The first public display, a cinematograph of Brothers Lumière, has taken place. Today the capital of France is considered the capital of cinema. Statistically in the city there are 376 movie theaters where about 50 movies, among which there are novelties, repeated displays of old movies, movies for children, short films, documentary chronicles in original versions with subtitlings and duplicated are shown every week. There take place thematic festivals. In the city there took place shootings of many movies of such famous directors as Woody Allen. I'll Say That I Love You, Midnight in Paris. Bernardo Bertolucci. The Last Tango in Paris. Marcel Carné. Children A. Reika. And many others. Museums. Louvre, the largest museum of France. In Paris there are 173 museums devoted to various subjects, which are very differing by the size, with exhibits from around the world. The museums are subdivided into National, Louvre and Georges Pompidou Center. The museums of Municipality of the City of Paris. The Museum de Carnaval. And private collections. Museum Jacques-Martin.
The Museum Louvre opened in 1793 in the former residence of the French kings, consists of 8 thematic departments, where one of the largest world collections consisting of 350,000 exhibits, masterpieces of the Western European art of the Middle Ages up to 1848, and also antique civilizations of ancient Egyptians, Romans, Etruscans, civilizations of the Middle East, and art of the Islamic people is presented on the area of 60600 m.
Exactly there such world masterpieces as Mona Lisa and Venus de Milo are stored. Musée d'Orsay was located in the building of the former railway station of the same name on the bank of Seine.
His station building has been built on Victor Lola's project in 1900 for the message between Paris and Orleans, however has been closed in 1939. In the 1980th years, under the leadership of Guy Olenti, the building was remade under the new museum.
He first of all is famous for a collection of the French Impressionists, in total more than 500 works of the period of 1848-1942, among which there are such masterpieces as A Breakfast on Ypres, of Manet, a bronze sculpture, The Little 14-Year-Old Dancer, Degas, a picture in style of A New Origin of the Universe, of G. Herbet. Musée d'Orsay. The cultural center of Georges Pompidou, constructed in 1977 on Renzo Piano, Richard Rogers and Gianfranco Francini's project, is the main contemporary art center of France. In the building there is not only a museum of modern art, but also library, cinema halls, bookstores and studios of children's creativity. The device of the building, all infrastructure. Elevators, air shafts, escalators. Is remarkable. It is taken out outside and painted in bright colors. Picasso's museum contains only about 250 pictures, but is one of the most beautiful museums of Paris. Exposure is made by Picasso's works and also the collection of works of other artists, Georges Braque, Paul Cézanne, Henri Matisse and Amedeo Modigliani, collected by him. The museum was located in the mansion which is built up in 1656-1659 Salle in the quarter of Mer. In the medieval palace of Abbots of Cluny now there is a museum of the Middle Ages, with a collection of medieval objects of art. From here it is possible to get to the remained ruins a term of the Gallo-Roman period. In September 2000 near the building of the museum a medieval garden of 50 m has been laid out. To the World Fair of 1900 as exhibit rooms big and small palaces have been designed. In big not only objects of art are exposed, but also there take place various fairs exhibitions, for example, the Parisian Motor Show. In small have found the place of a collection of painting of the French and Italian Renaissance and also a picture of Flemish and Dutch masters. The appearance of the modern city has been set in the middle of the 19th century as a result of grandiose reorganization. Many centuries before it represented a labyrinth of narrow streets and wooden houses. In 1852, according to the plan of improvement of the city, conceived by the Baron Osman, the whole quarters of shabby constructions have been destroyed, and on their place wide avenues and stone buildings built to the uniform line in neoclassical style, Borgias, so characteristic of a new era, have appeared. The principles of a Gradustroystvo of times of Napoleon III have not lost their relevance also now. Height and the sizes of buildings submit to the uniform law of uniformity. From the middle of the 19th century only several exceptions to the rules have been made. Thanks to it Paris remains flat. The special view of mansions of Hôtel Particulier is typical for architecture of Paris. Such mansion represents the rich private house of a P-shaped form with the courtyard and a garden from the back of a middle part of the building. The majority of constructions have been executed in the 17th, 18th centuries. For constructions of the 18th century, distinctive feature is the yard closed from all four parties. The most impressive example of that is the building of Pale Grand Piano, the royal palace with the interior area, the fountain and the park. The majority of the remained city mansions are located in the quarter of Mer, for example, Soubise Hotel, Hotel Fat and Hotel Carnival. And variable city lines, its accurate plan of the device and the shortage of the place for new construction have gradually turned the capital into the operating and living museum. For the sake of preservation of great heritage laws complicate construction of new buildings and communications in the center, therefore the considerable number of the business organizations has moved or plans moving to comfortable suburbs. Already now outside the historic town there are the business area La Défense, the large food market, region of Ranzis, important educational institutions, Polytechnical Institute, scientific laboratories, sports constructions, Stade de France Stadium, and even the ministries. For example, the Ministry of Transport. All of them are conveniently connected to the central part of Paris subway lines. Cemeteries, by the developed Christian tradition of deceased tried to bury on the earth, adjacent to church. In 1786, because of reasons of public hygiene, has been decided to stop burials at the crowded cemeteries at churches in the downtown and to close them, and to transfer remains to the underground developed stone quarries to the south from Paris. Modern catacombs of Paris in the 14th district. Opening of the largest Parisian cemeteries belongs to the beginning of the 19th century, an era of government of Napoleon. Development of the city has led to the fact that these cemeteries, which were once on the outskirts, were some kind of green oasis of tranquility in the center of various quarters of the noisy capital. In total in Paris there are 14 cemeteries statistically, on them about 34000 trees grow. Many great people of France and the whole world have found the final resting place at the Cimetière Père-Lachaise, the real necropolis museum of funeral art of the 19th century under the open sky, the Cemetery of Montmartre, a labyrinth on 11 hectares, Montparnasse, thanks to the strict planning that got name of the Bay of Tranquility, and the Cemetery Posse, small, but with the most high density of celebrities on square meter. Embankments of Seine in 1991 were included into the UNESCO World Cultural Heritage List. Suburban Palace of Fontainebleau and the Palace of Versailles have been entered in the list in 1979 and 1981 respectively. In Paris there is a huge number of sites which not only architectural constructions, but also streets, bridges and squares are among. The city contains 1,800 historical places and 130 museums, 14 of them belong to the city and inlet to them free. One of the most known sites, the openwork metal Eiffel Tower constructed on the project of the engineer Eiffel. The tower thought as the temporary construction serving as an inlet on the World Fair of 1889. But she not only has endured an action, but also became a true symbol of the city. In the north from her, over a horizon line the Basilica Sacré-Cœur constructed at Hill Montmartre top, and in the south, the lonely tower the Montparnasse Tower which is especially allocated against the background of the flat area towers. The historical axis of monuments of architecture crosses the city from the center on the west. Beginning from the Museum Louvre, well known for the whole world, it proceeds through the Garden Tuileries, Champs-Élysées Avenue to the Triumphal Arch constructed in the 19th century in the center of VSD Square. In the 1960th on continuation of the line La Défense, which center was a big arch La Défense has been built quarter. In the center of a historical part there is a nursing home in which the military museum is located. Napoleon Bonaparte's remains are based here. Right there the former Pantheon church protecting eternal rest of once famous French figures. One more reminder on the flaring fights for freedom of the French people, the Statue of Liberty established on the Swan Island. The original of this statue has been presented to the United States of America in 1886, and since then meets travelers in the port of New York. The historic center of the city, the island of Sight, where there are two best-known churches of France. Notre Dame de Paris and Sainte-Chapelle. Near the island of Sight, the island of St. Louis, known frozen, recognized as located by one of the best in the world. The architectural directions of the 20th century left to the city such monuments as the Cultural Center of Georges Pompidou, in which the Museum of Modern Art, the new building of the Opera at Bastille Square, the shopping center Les Halles, constructed on the place of the Belle of Paris, and also the area La Défense, representing an architectural complex from skyscrapers and buildings and constructions with vanguard forms, is located now. The Parc Ensemble, Town of Science and Industry, in which there is a large museum of science and technology, is of also undoubted interest. Fans of ancient things can visit flea markets Saint-Ouen and Marché Puissant. Also far. Write comments. Read comments. Interesting people will tell interesting stories. All of good mood and good luck.